One waiting.
We are live. You guys are probably the one guy that's waiting. We'll give it a few minutes and let my mouth cool down. We just had jalapeno poppers. I had like 5 of them. None of them were hot. This last one I had now is like burning my mouth. What a way to start a podcast. Oh, man.
What I had was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I don't like us.
The other ones were fine too, but that one was really hot for whatever reason. So I'm going into the podcast with teary eyes and burning mouth, and energy levels are high, though. Right? You
He's
guys.
honestly just crying because we scored for trying to sell Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. Yelling at me for trying to sell Mighty Mouse. All right, I'm going to compose myself, and we'll get started here shortly. So what'd you guys do today? While we wait.
Went to work. Peyton's birthday party. Went hunting for half hour, 45 minutes, and now I'm here.
Nice. A busy day.
Changed oil in a Rhino, washed a Rhino, and went for about a 10-mile bike ride.
Nice.
Yeah.
The electric bikes you don't tell.
I do not use electric bikes.
No one uses electric bikes in this group,
I do.
Dan. I just worked on a deck. Actually, I finished a snowblower first thing. Getting it running, an old antique. So, all right, you guys are ready to officially start this podcast?
Let's
off?
do it.
I don't know how many we'll actually get live since we're this early, but
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I am not quite ready because I got to get Audacity recording here as well for a secondary audio recording. All right, now that is recording. Let me get Google back up here so I can see ourselves. All right, welcome to Pep Talk Live. This is episode 11. We were on a good streak there. I decided to start my own business, so it's been a couple months since we done one, right?
Yes.
But
At
now
least, yeah.
winter's here, we should be able to get back on track. And once a month, we'll get to knocking these guys out again. Today, I thought it might be a fun topic to talk about. Look at kind of each major machine and what we feel the companies need to do and improve them. So I think we're going to just do this by model basis, probably starting with what we have. And then we'll go to others like the KRX 1000. Of course, we're going to have Dan's input on the Polaris's. My input too, and probably Greg's is don't buy them. My thoughts towards Polaris will be somewhat positive for this discussion.
Now let
So
me get a chance to actually work on it. You understand why people buy them.
I'm getting there. Am I going to buy one myself eventually? No, but there are things I have come to enjoy and like about them. So we'll talk about
Horsepower.
that. Horsepower is pretty good.
That's where it's at.
Ride is always great. No matter
Yeah.
what Polaris I have, the ride's been really nice.
Even with OEM shock.
Yep. They ride pretty good. But let's start right off with everyone's favorite, the Pioneer 500, and we'll include the Pioneer 520 in this as well. I'll start us off by saying the number one thing Honda needs to do with that from the factory they're not doing now is a front diff lock. Front diff lock. You'll probably have a mixed crowd between front diff lock and power steering, but honestly, the Pioneer 500 without power steering is not hard to steer.
I think it steers similar to the Rhino. It's a really light steer. It's a lighter
is.
machine, so I don't think it's really necessary.
Now, with a diff lock, are you going to want power steering?
Yeah, probably.
That one video.
We did, but you got to remember, I have the power steering unit, so even with a torque locker, my steering without power steering is harder because I got all the resistance from the electric motor.
So that should make it a better review.
So it should. So I'd say Pioneer 500 definitely number one thing that Honda needs to do is put a front locker in that guy. Power steering, yeah. What do you guys think? Which would you rate first, diff lock or power steering?
Definitely diff lock.
Diff lock.
I can deal with no power steering, but you need traction.
Mhm.
So
Well, I mean, I'm going to go power steering on this because a lot of old folk buy the Pioneer 500s and they don't have the upper arm strength they used to have.
Well,
So
that's a good point.
it's harder for them to turn.
I bet you if we were to take a poll, we'd probably get pretty close 50-50 maybe
I'd
on
say
that.
So
So
I'm going to say the power steering just because people I talk to at Carnes that have them are mostly all in their late 50s, 60s, and so forth. No offense, you guys are getting up there, but
Thanks, Dad.
You know that there's a thing called the weight room that they can go to.
Build up some arm strength.
anywho, next.
So if we were to take a poll, we might actually come out 50-50 because it seems, well, I'm in that weird middle ground, I think, with the Pioneer 500. You have the crowd that do these absolute builds and put these huge tires on, and they do nothing but mud. They obviously would prefer a diff lock. And then, like Dan said, the other major group that's buying these Pioneer 500s is older people that just kind of putt around.
Like
And,
my dad.
yeah, don't really use them heavy. And I'm in
Yeah.
that weird in the middle where I
He's had it. My dad's had his for 5 years, and I think he's put 110.
Yeah, he
miles
doesn't
on
run it much.
Like,
It's
no.
like brand new.
Yeah, it's brand new.
But I fall in that middle of the ground where I do everything with mine, so
Mm-hmm.
it's my main runner. So, but I
And they solved the problem with the dump bed. Remember the dump bed we went through?
we
Kinda
started to
design it?
develop,
It
and
was a good idea.
It was.
We just weren't. We didn't.
Fast enough.
Well, we needed, which is exactly what Honda did. They injection molded it, which I
and
mean,
with the 520 now,
I
you got it.
priced out an injection mold, and it was ludicrous how much it was going to be to do it. But we tried to fab it out of metal, which we could have done, but it had been extremely labor intensive to do. So the answer obviously was to build an injection mold. That would have been the answer. But if we'd have been faster if we'd have realized that right away, we probably could have sold quite a few of them.
Yeah, probably.
Probably could still sell them to the older models, and
Mhm.
retrofit them. But
Production costs, like you said, the labor doing an all metal bed like that is.
oh,
I mean,
I mean, it's
I mean, how much would it
It's-
cost to buy the stock 520 bed too?
$1,000
yeah.
And then
at least.
How much work would it take to make?
No one's tried it yet. It's not just a simple bolt on.
No, they
Maybe it's
did that
Well,
for
see,
well, they did that for
They did that for a reason. Yeah.
Not so
But
you can't retrofit it.
maybe you could whip up some
I-
bracket adapters that could make it bolt
I
on
think
that.
we should try it. That's like one more thing to add to Mighty Mouse's bucket list of things that you're trying to do.
To make it work with my intercooler.
Do you
though.
think that people would be willing to drop $1,000 just on the bed? Though?
I don't know. I don't think.
I don't think so.
I think they would just be inclined just to buy the 520 or trade in their 500 on a 520.
I think if you had an older 500, I think the cutoff would be like the $400 to $600 range for a dump bed.
And that's kinda-
selling a dump bed to them, for $400 to $600.
Yeah.
There's no way.
and that's kind of another thing we had talked about, and you had mentioned, back when you were looking at making it is,
Yeah.
it's just people's not going to want when your buggy's under $9,000 brand new, you're not wanting to drop 1,000 extra just for a
It's
dump
like
bed. And
another 10% over the cost of the.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I would say with the 500, that's diff lock still is the top of my list. Power steering, yeah, but now I don't have much experience with the Pioneer 700, but I will say the number one gripe
I-
I hear about
I do.
with
I know
that
what that
is
That's
the transmission at 3-speed.
Oh,
Honda
yeah.
needs to slap in even the 5-speed off of
If
Mighty
they
Mouse.
put
That'd
the
be perfect.
if they put a 5-speed paddle shift transmission in that, they would not be able to make enough. For those
No,
things.
I think
it'd be like the Rhino Reborn
Mm-hmm.
with a standard transmission, and it's a Honda. They would sell 1 billion of those things.
Yep.
Why am I the only one that thinks that?
I don't know, but it's like people will either go with the 500 that actually has a better power to rate ratio than the 700, and of course the 520
Yeah.
does now too, where they skip right to the 1000. There is a small crowd that likes the 700.
What is the curb
But-
blade of the 700?
I couldn't tell you that right off the top of my head.
I'm not familiar with
But
that.
I
don't
had-
pay much attention to the 700 because it doesn't interest me because
Yeah.
of the transmission.
Now- Yes, it rides nicer than the 500
Sure.
because it's got more suspension travel
right.
and a little bit bigger tires, which is another thing Honda should do to the 500. I mean, get rid of the little 24-inch tires and at least put a set of 26s on because they fit. But
Yeah.
It's hard to get those small tires like anymore. Like I price those all day long, and it's like the selection of tires you can actually get in that size is almost slim to none. anymore.
it's slim to none. So, but yeah, 700. I think all Honda needs to do to sell more of those is just put a better transmission in there, and it would sell like
Do the
hotcakes.
same thing they did in the 500, 5-speed paddle shift with the automatic manual transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even like a crawling range.
Mhm.
Like have a reduction box in there to go into low range and have another 5 gears.
Yeah, I don't think they need to put
Yeah.
the 6-speed dual clutch out of the 1000.
No.
I think that'd be
No,
way
that's
overkill
that's
for
way
the 700.
overkill for that.
But yeah, just the 5-speed would be good. And
Be
the
an awesome machine.
the 1000, I don't know. mechanically, now with the newest model, the 2023s, they've made some big improvements to the transmission. I don't know if you know guys know this. It's shifting smoother, it's holding up better. So they made some major improvements there with the transmission. And everyone that I've seen drive a newer one is impressed. It's like worlds better than the old one. So Honda did address that. The only thing I would say is try to improve the comfort of the rear seats in the 1005. That's probably, and the heat. But I mean, you're going to have heat issues whenever you're sitting on top of the motor.
Sure.
But
There's almost no getting away from it. I mean,
There isn't.
the same way. So
people complain about it all the time. They complain about it even with the RMAX, especially noise level, which we'll get to. But I mean, when you're sitting on top of the motor, you're going to have that in an off-road vehicle.
I have a Rhino. The motor's right beside me. I've ridden it thousands of miles in the summer, winter, every season, and I have no complaints about heat.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know why people complain about it. It doesn't bother me.
No, it doesn't mean. And I even got full windshields on my buggies.
You buy a smaller four-seater, you're going to have issues with it.
Mm-hmm.
You buy the longer four-seater, you're going to have benefits, but also issues.
Issues with it as
So
well.
it's like, and yeah, let's say like a General 4. The engine's still behind you, but it's also 3 feet longer than your standard Wolverine RMAX.
Good luck
So
trying to turn in the woods.
Well, heat in the RMAX isn't an issue at all.
No, it's not. No, the biggest complaint, which let's just go ahead and I don't think there's anything else really I could
Honda.
say would need improved with the Pioneer 1000. I have no complaints over the one I had other than the heat.
It rode
Which-
nice once you put the Walker. I mean, it even rode nice before the Walker Evans, but it rode really nice with the Walker Evans.
Yeah.
But the leg room, like you said, in the back seat was probably, I'd say, a couple inches less than in the RMAX.
Yeah, which they're trying to make a multi-purpose vehicle where you have the dump bed and the
Right.
seat. So you're
So I mean, there you are again, sacrificing one thing for another. So
Yeah. it's kind of a
you can't
washout,
really hate on
but
the machine for it whenever it's designed for one thing, but you want it for a different thing.
mhm.
So it's hard.
So I don't think I have anything else to add for that. You guys
For Honda,
covers Honda.
are we going to go back and talk about each manufacturer, like what they should make?
We
or-
can do that at the end if
Yeah.
you want to. We'll talk about current models. We can go back and say, here's what the perfect machine they need to make.
There's one thing that needs to make something.
Suzuki.
This is- yeah, which I was going to talk about later on, but
We'll stick to it.
we'll get to it. Okay, Yamaha.
Yeah.
Greg's still rocking the old Rhinos.
Just start building the Rhino
Just
again. and
bring
sell-
that
sell it for
platform back.
$11,999.
Uh-huh.
Sell the exact same machine. It was the 2012, 2013 model, and just, I mean, they would sell 1 million of those.
I mean, you can't. Rhino had
Because-
everything it needed. Diff lock, plenty of power for most situations.
Yeah.
Suspension travel's not the greatest, but again, it's a smaller, narrower machine that's
put-
really nimble.
You put a good set of shocks on it, and you can do a lot more than what you think. on it.
And you were happy with the improvement over the sport shocks when you switched out on those ones, weren't you?
The Walker Evans are better in some places, yeah, but they're very similar.
Yeah.
Like they're very close. Like, I mean, obviously the biggest difference was the stock versus the stocks are just, they're terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they're similar to the Pioneer 500.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you put a good set of shocks on it, and I mean, Walker Evans or whatever, and you'll have no issues. I mean, like I was telling you at Rock Run, I can go through rocks just about as fast as I want to go.
Yeah,
you
you,
know?
you keep right up with the RMAX
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff with me. So let's jump right into the ATVs because this is what everyone's going to say. Yamaha, you need to put the 850 or the 1000 in the Grizzly. You have the Kodiak 700. Leave the Kodiak, the 700,
Right.
get rid of the 700 Grizzly and make it an 850 or 1000 Grizzly. You would sell a crap ton of them.
I would just go with an 850 Grizzly.
That would be plenty.
70 horsepower, reliable horsepower, refined. That would be the ultimate quality.
I don't know why
With the same
other
size it is now.
with the same
Same
size,
size.
same body, and I don't know why Yamaha hasn't done that yet. They hear that, I'm sure, from so many different people, and the only thing I can figure is they're not wanting to spare the motors from the Wolverines to do it. You know, that's the only thing I can figure.
I think it's the amount of R&D they'd have to do to really test it. and-
Probably. Now, are they doing that and just keeping it hush hush?
be.
We can hope, and maybe here in the next couple of years we'll see that. But
I mean, I'd be interested if they did that.
I mean, that would. I know a lot of guys have mentioned to me that if Yamaha put the 850 or the 1000, they would sell their Sportsman or their Outlander and go with Yamaha simply because the Yamaha is
Reliability.
superior CVT. And Yamaha would be sitting on a gold mine if they would do that.
They would take over they would take over that segment of the ATV industry for sure.
And Yamaha has listened to the consumers as far as refinements to the 850. Because look at the changes they made on the 850 Wolverines with the door sizes and the in and out. And
Those 850s are very refined machines.
Oh, they
They're
are.
very nice.
They
Very quiet.
made the improvements when they came out with the R-Max over the 850, all the complaints, and then that incorporated with the 850 Wolverines as well. So, I mean, Yamaha, come on, put the bigger motor in the Grizzly.
I mean, did they physically have the room in that for the C? Because the
I don't know, and that could be part of it. They're going to
the
have
C-
to probably make it a
the
little bit
CVT is
bigger.
big. The CVT is bigger. The CVT case is bigger. The motor's bigger. They probably don't have the room to do
And
that.
that's
in the current size. chassis.
that's the benefits to Polaris and Can-Am with their V twins is they can keep
Yeah.
a smaller profile.
That probably has a lot to do with
So,
it. Is
yeah.
the profile of that engine is why you can't do that.
George, I probably agree with you. We're just now seeing that comment, but they could definitely use probably more space.
Oh, both the 500 and the 520 could use a little more storage. I mean,
I-
there's tons of room under the seats. They could put a nice storage bin under there.
Yeah,
I just
they
use
got
the
a lot of
bed.
open
Just use the
frame and-
bed as
Yeah.
as storage.
Well, 520 though, you got the 500, you have the rack, and unless you build your own bed, there's really
Well,
not
he's
much
saying
storage.
specifically the 520, which has the dump.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, but back to Yamaha. As far as what my R-Max could, yeah, it's loud and noisy, especially compared to the 850. Again, that doesn't bother me, but that's one of the biggest complaints I see people, especially people that's had the 850 and then switched to the R-Max. Is
it's
the noise.
loud. It's louder than the 850, but I wouldn't say it's loud.
It's not overly loud. Stock exhaust and stuff. It's not overly
I
loud.
don't think it's any louder than the Rhino, really.
No.
I mean, but there you are again, mid-engine.
Mid-engine,
So
a
you're
lot
gonna
more
have
power.
noise.
The R-Max is higher compression than the 850. So you're getting, it's going to make more noise.
What changes would you make on the R-Max? I'll answer that. I like an ATV with a good sight line, like down the hood. Like the YXZ has the sloped hood. You can see right in front of the machine. I would like to see that because the R-Max is very, very high and very straight, very flat.
Yep.
That's really the only thing I don't like about the R-Max.
I agree with you. The 850 was cut straight down.
down.
You could see so well in that with the R-Max.
The Rhino, it slopes
Yep.
straight down. You can see stuff that's 6 feet in front of the machine, so you don't miss a rock or something.
Yep.
But the R-Max is very high, very straight, and it's kind of like the KRX. The KRX is actually sloped too,
Mhm.
but the R-Max is very flat, and I'd like to see them. I don't see why they couldn't slope that down and give you some more visibility.
Nope, I agree.
So
I
could
think that's
probably agree with that,
yeah.
driving it enough.
Yeah, it's got that very flat, long nose.
Because you can't look straight ahead to see what's going on. You have to look to the side with the suspension to
Yep.
see what's really going on.
And that's
And-
one thing I liked about the model that I won't yet mention, but no one likes, is you can see a lot of stuff out of this, like the generals and the stuff. I mean, even I guess the defenders for a utility machine, you can see a lot out of those. So I mean, it would be nice to be able to actually see the tree you're going to hit before you hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But see, here's a comment from Rogers
He didn't like it.
3334. He didn't like that
Huh.
slope nose. So it probably depends on your riding and
Yeah.
what you like. But see,
What kind of riding do you do, Roger? Are you a woods rider or do you do a lot of open riding?
we tend to do
A lot of
woods
riding.
and technical
Woods.
stuff where
Mhm.
that visibility is important. But if you're like somewhere riding dunes and where it's
Then it
open, I guess it
wouldn't
really wouldn't matter as much.
No,
So-
I mean, you don't have anything to hit.
Uh-huh.
If
But-
you're going to hit anything, you're going to hit that hidden ditch right off the horizon that the sun and everything covers up, and you can't see the hole in the ground. Regardless of it being
I
straight down. Or
I've ridden in an R-Max, obviously not as much as Jason, but I sat in a 2-seater the other day, and honestly, like, I would not really change anything about that machine. I can't think of it. It's built like a tank. I mean, you look at the suspension arms; they're overbuilt. It has the indestructible clutching system in it. I don't think I would change anything in it other than maybe a different sight line. But I think the engineering team did a really good job with that machine.
Here is my complaint over it. Now, the hoods and sightlines, an interesting point. Yeah, I've gotten used to that, so it doesn't bother me so much anymore. I wish they would put the center console out of the 850 and the R-Max I do not like the RMAX center console. They took the nice big center storage out of the 850
Oh, it's
and
really
shrunk
shallow.
it down
It's really shallow
because
in
they
the
added
RMAX.
all them toggle switch blanks.
Mhm.
And I have yet to see anyone with an RMAX that actually uses those.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some guys out there, but I'd rather have the cup holders where they were in the 850 and that length of that storage box and depth of that storage box back because I missed that. I don't need all them switch plates there.
So we were at Rock Run last weekend, and we came to a climb that was probably at least 45 degrees,
It's deep.
probably about 70 or 80 yards long.
It was the
and-
same climb that I went up in Mighty Mouse testing the turbo and the last where I popped the front wheels up. So it was
I
that
didn't-
climb.
I'll be honest, I did not feel comfortable trying to climb that in a Rhino, but I mean, if you were there and climbed it, because we climbed it on foot first, and if you were there and did that, you would understand why. It was very steep. And that RMAX, Jason, myself, and my cousin all piled in. It was at least 600 pounds of riders. That thing just ran right up that thing in high range.
High gear, four-wheel drive.
Four-wheel
and-
drive, high gear, just ran right up it
Right
like
up it.
nothing. Like
Mhm.
very impressive. Like that makes me want to go out and buy an RMAX too.
Mhm.
If they weren't 20 grand.
Yeah,
If
that's
they
your
weren't
last
20
statement. More now. They're up to what, 23 for a
Well,
base
the sport is
two-seater?
like 25 and
Yeah.
change of the sport. The sport was 23. Now it's like 24, 25.
Yeah. So,
But-
but yeah, that would be the thing I would change in the RMAX is the center console. Mechanically, it's stout. I know
I abs-
guys have trouble with tie rods bending them. I'm sure that's probably just as much.
I
as their
absolutely
riding,
love
but-
their air filtration system.
Mhm.
They have a huge air cleaner. I think it's dual stage air
It
cleaner,
is,
and then they have this a paper filter that they say nothing can pass through it,
Mhm.
which is, I mean, I can understand why they rate the motor for 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that is way better than the Rhino. You got to really watch in the older machines like the Rhino, and I don't know about the Wolverine, but in the Rhino, you really got to watch the air filter in those things. They load up pretty quick, especially if you're riding behind somebody in a lot of dust. They load up quick, and you got to get them. You got to change them every day.
The 700 Wolverine wasn't bad. It was in the center, kind of.
Okay.
And
Oh,
it
the
was-
air cleaner was in
the
center?
air cleaner is in the center, like between the seats. There's a
Really?
big air box right there.
Okay.
And so it's not too bad. It stays pretty clean. I'm not sure where the intake. I think the intake is out
Yeah.
behind the seats. But then you rode enough in the RMAX. Is there anything you would change or recommend that the OEMs manufacturers need to change?
I mean,
Change the
I-
price.
That's a given
Yeah.
anymore. So
but,
yeah.
I mean, no, I like the way it rides. I don't necessarily care for how wide it is. I did like the 60 inches on the 850.
It had its
64.
advantages being a little narrower.
But I mean, if they maybe made it a little bit skinnier, it just if you're around here, you got like asphalt roads and stuff. It just loves the ruts back and forth.
Mm.
You just can't keep it out of it. So
She does that perfect
you
width
can
that
put
falls
the
in.
best shock on anything you want, but if it's not getting out of the rut, you can't keep it out of two ruts and slate back and forth. You're still going to get a terrible ride.
See, here's my thoughts on getting an RMAX or an X2. Is like if I get an RMAX, it's 20 grand, and it goes 70 miles an hour. But if I get an X2, which is the logical step up for me, like it goes 50 or 55 off the showroom floor. But that's what my Rhino does.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense. But I don't want something really that's as big as the X2 or as wide. So
E50
Like, they
is comparable. It's a little bit wider than the Rhino. What's the Rhino? Like 58?
no, the Rhino is like 56.
56?
Mine is like 56, 57.
Yeah.
It has the spacers in it too.
Yeah.
The wheel spacers. So
But yeah, the only thing I think would be beneficial is that with a little bit of a better ground clearance.
more ground clearance in the
I think the
RMAX?
RMAX has
Really?
amazing ground clearance.
Well, I'm
for
just
stuff.
saying more ground clearance because if you narrow a machine down, like let's say, what I'm getting at is they can narrow the machine, but also narrow where the shocks and everything.
Yeah,
go,
okay, I get it.
So they can keep the suspension travel that they have on the wider machine because basically all they do is make the A-arms wider to get all that suspension travel, the height, the width,
Mhm.
everything else. If they skinny that up to 60 inches, but narrowed the machine down in the front where the control arms, so they can keep the longer control arms, better suspension travel. That way you still have the comfort of like a 64-inch ride machines, but you have the narrowness of the trail machines.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is tight. Like if you're up around the woods up here and you're trying to go fast and keep up like 20, 30 mile an hour up here, just too tight for that.
It is, yeah.
So-
We could rip in the
Not-
850
yeah,
pretty
we-
hard,
yeah,
and
some of
can't
us
quite
struggle.
do that on some of these with the,
No,
the
so
RMAX. So.
They just narrowed where the shock towers and everything are to keep all that stuff closer together, and then they put longer arms on it, but made it still 60 inches. I think it'd be a better machine.
So.
But
But that's the machines we own. So from here on out, it's pretty much just going to be like my observation from what I've seen people say about these different brands that they could improve. Not much experience with them, but you can still see there's areas for improvement. Let's start with the KRX 1000. Biggest complaint I hear people say about that is it just needs more power.
the heat,
Does it need a turbo? I don't know. I mean, with the size of the engine, you about need to slap a turbo on there to get more power out of it.
they went more for the comfort side of everything than they did they went sporty, but they went more for comfort and reliability over the fastest sport machine.
They did, and I think it was a good move.
It's heavier than the RMAX.
It's a
2
heavy,
then,
it's a
right?
heavy beast. I don't know if it's a lot heavier than
It's
the
not.
RMAX.
I don't think it's the weight
I
of the
don't know
RMAX
what it is off the top of my
4.
head.
I don't think it's the weight of the RMAX 4, but it's probably heavier than
It's
the 2.
probably heavier. The RMAX
If you-
4 is right around 2100,
Yeah.
2200.
If you watch a drag race though between the KRX and the RMAX, like it's not even close.
Mhm.
Like I mean, it's a big difference. In
The RMAX
performance
takes
there.
it.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. Make sure to say it. The RMAX takes it usually.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's
But
quite a bit quicker.
that's what, everyone that has them that I've talked to and seen, they like them. Like Dan said, they love the comfort. They
I don't like the switches in the KRX. I
Don't
don't know
ya?
what it is about them. You know, like they have this. They just have a different feel to it. I'm not
Mhm.
saying it's lesser quality. I just don't care for the switch. That's a small complaint.
and the thing I noticed about the KRX, the visibility wasn't the best in it either. But
The,
it's
the hood does slope, but then you have the big fenders on the
Yeah.
sides that blind you. And
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
that might
I-
just be me because I'm used to the machines where I set up, and that one is a little more sporty. You set down in,
Mm-hmm.
but
Heat. A lot of people complain about heat. They said if you're drinking anything, you might as well not put it in cup water. They said it gets so hot you can't drink it.
and that's even a rear engine machine, and it's still
Yeah,
getting
that's
that hot.
interesting.
So
It is, and I've questioned it, but almost everyone that's bought one said you can't put anything in the cup water. It
Just
for some
cooks
reason
it.
carries the heat. I don't know. It's probably where the coolant lines run up through by the
right by the cup holders.
by the cup holders, I would assume, or something like that that's causing it to get as hot as it does. They said physically you can't feel the heat, but like you put anything in the cup holders and stuff, they said it just gets real hot.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to guess, it's probably because of coolant lines or something like that. But who knows?
Yeah, but I mean, coming from like the Terex to the KRX 1000, there's probably definitely a big improvement there in the suspension.
They probably should move the radiator to the back of
Yeah.
the KRX.
Do it
that
like the
would make-
YXZ style
would make the
now with it
most
in the
sense.
back. Mhm.
Another complaint: axles. One, they're super expensive. The left's different size than the right. Both front and rears are all different sizes. So you have 4 different axles in that machine.
So
Every stock axle that's in that's
so they're different lengths.
yeah.
So
It's-
so the suspension would have to be different. Then-
it's weird. It's completely.
How
different.
is how
Do
is
they
the
are the,
suspension?
like the differentials offset?
I
So
I don't
it's about
think so, but I'm not 100.
you'd have to have
sure.
different suspension geometry and
Just
every.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird, but they have different axles, left and right, same front and rear. But their axles run like 700-800.
Oh
Wow.
But to get the axles out, since they're basically like a seal tip, but not seal, I
And-
don't know how that all works. But they seize into the cups. So to get one side out, you have to smash the axle off, pull the cup, drill a hole through the cup, put a tap and a die in it, tap and die the whole length of the splines, put basically like a push bolt in it, thread it in, push it out, and then smash the other axle out of the other side with the thing. So basically, if you break one axle, you're replacing both.
Wow. That's crazy.
I've looked at the Kawasaki KRX and I think the build quality is great, but I've never considered purchasing one like I have an X2 or an X2 or an RMAX or
It's kind of like the Wildcat XX. I've sat in one. I really liked it. Because, I mean, you're getting a.
it's just not for me. Like the KRX just isn't for me.
Yeah.
I'm leaning toward YXZSS.
Yeah.
That way.
You want to get that.
I'm
Bang.
honestly leaning towards a YXZ. mostly because they're starting to be one of the cheaper side by sides you can still get.
Yeah.
the 22s and 23s are still like 21,899 or something
Well, not only
like that. The SS is still
Mhm.
priced like that.
you can buy used YXZ cheaper than you can buy anything else because people are so.
Oh, yeah.
I just saw a real nice. I was gonna save it and show Greg earlier. It was a real nice. It was a 19, so it's the newer with the reduced gearing. The radiator's been relocated to the back and stuff. It was like 15 grand,
That's a pretty good price, yeah.
so
How many
that's
miles?
1,000.
Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I've been like Facebook Marketplace. You scroll through that, you see tons of YXZs. No one likes them for some reason. They just don't like the way they're geared.
Even
all
the
this other
SS?
crap. And most people just don't like the way they're geared.
Yeah.
Even with the gear reduction, they say it's not enough. But most people are half the time drunk when they're riding.
That is very true.
They're-
I'm starting to agree with you about putting a CVT in the YXZ.
hmm I think they would sell a lot more. I mean, still keep your manual transmission with the clutch in the version.
It would
Take the CVT that they put on the Wildcat XX, so you can have that in the YXZ, and I bet you they would sell a lot more. They could,
one of the reasons the XX sells more than the YXZ
Yep,
does,
because it's
of that.
the same motor with a CVT high and low range, and it's just
And it
better
comes
gearing.
Factory with more horsepower
So
because they're tuned different.
my only problem with that is with the CVT is the relative lack of torque with that 3-cylinder motor. It's a high RPM motor. It revs to what, 12 grand, 11
Yeah.
grand, 12 grand. So it's not a torque motor, which is what you really need for a CVT. It's
Yeah.
not a torque motor, so it needs to rev up. So they would have to have a higher RPM engagement for the clutch, which would be probably kind of annoying.
Mhm.
I think.
I really think, like, I like the CVT, but I honestly think if they made a trail version and the sport version of that, I mean, Razor, the 1000s, they have the Rocks and Trails,
Mhm.
they did make trail versions of the sport machines. But if they changed the torque curve, like you were saying, even with the standard part of it, I think that would just be a better machine because, like you said, it's a high rev engine regardless.
Yeah.
Or if they tuned it different, you might be able to tune it for more of a low grunt, which would make that gear on gear perfectly fine.
Mhm.
So
But then if you tune it with a different cam or something, then you're going to have the Dune crowd not liking it because
Yeah.
it doesn't
Well, that's why
rev
you
up
have
anymore.
the
And,
trail version.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
understand.
what I was saying too. Keep what they have now in the manual, the good old clutched manual, and then come out with like the trail version where they could maybe offer a CVT with the different gearing and stuff for it.
I would like to demo. I've never driven a YXZ. I'd like to demo one. I'd like to see exactly how the gearing is, like on the typical trails that we're on.
Mm-hmm. You see guys out there, they make them work.
Yeah,
So-
you see them at Rock Run all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people say they are. I honestly think you just got to know how to drive what you have, and
That's a
you know
big
how to
part
drive
of
the
it.
Rhino, you know how to drive the Yamaha that you have, and it's people drive the Talons and they're gear on gear.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably honestly geared higher than the YXZs are.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's just on how you drive it.
Terex. They did make an improvement with that over. They have the S model now.
I
I have yet
sat
to
in
ride
one.
in an S.
I sat at a Terex S today.
Comfort on the
Oh,
Terex
they're
is
so comfortable.
amazing. And I've driven the normal ones, and yes, even with the Fox shocks, it bounces you around. And I haven't rode in the S, so I think that was an improvement that needed done.
I think they go from 60 to, or no, 55 to 60.
I can't. I don't know what the stock one
I
is,
don't
but
think they're 60.
Miles an hour?
No,
Or-
no, the width.
the
Oh,
S
of it.
model
yeah,
is a couple inches wider, and that's if you put them side by side. It's one of the only things you can really tell is different. Is the
Yeah.
suspension on it.
So I think Kawasaki did right by doing that, but now I think they need to just up the power a little bit
It
more.
needs more motor.
That-
and it's still limited to like 50 or 50.
Yeah, the 800 engines they've been running since
time.
what 2012? Is that when they
13.
switched from the 750 to the 800?
I think it was either 13 or 14.
Maybe.
They went to
It's time
the
for a 1000.
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't even need to do that, but maybe just up it to like an 850 or something. They just need a little bit more power in them. I mean, they're good for what they are. Dependability is pretty good, but again, that motor is kind of getting tired and old in the tooth, and you
I'm on
need to.
I'm on the fence
Up
about
it.
the Kawasaki clutching.
Mhm.
I've heard really good things. I've heard they're indestructible. I've heard a lot of people saying that they've got a lot of issues with them. So
It's kind of one of those hit and miss things. The ones I've had in here and have worked on that I've test drove and rode around, I thought it was fine. The clutch engaged nice and smooth.
yeah,
Wasn't too herky jerky, so
I think the clutch issues lie on the bigger tire. issue with
Probably.
them. I know one of the guys brings a brute force in that has mud tires on it, and it's constantly. And
That
we've
makes
had to
sense.
replace the clutches in that thing like 3 times now.
and people don't run the right weights and stuff. And yeah,
No, and he just replaces it back. He never builds it. He just replaces it back to stock because it's under warranty. So then it just keeps getting blown out, and it's like,
Probably not running in low when he should be running in low with them big old tires. So.
you can tell he uses it. That's for sure.
So, yeah, I would say then that's probably the biggest that the Terex needs is they did good with the S, just up the power a little bit more, and it'd be a lot more competitive in the market. Because for what it is, it's okay. It could just use a touch more power. So I think that's all the Kawasaki's. All right, Dan, let's move on to Polaris. Here are my thoughts on Polaris. Now,
That'll be good.
dependability issues aside, we're not talking about dependability here. Dan, is your mic on?
I don't know.
No, it is off.
No,
Your
it's
mic's been
off.
off this whole time. Oh,
Jason, what are you doing?
Here's a podcast.
Kevin, is that better?
Cancel it.
Start
Start over. Luckily, Dan's got a loud enough mouth that the other mics
I-
must have been picking him up.
I normally talk quiet, so the fact that he even heard me is great.
Kevin, thank you for letting us know. That would have been funny if we went
Yeah,
the whole
what the heck
podcast
with the rest of
episode.
you? Huh? I know I'm not great, but
Dan,
still.
maybe they're just tired of hearing you. Maybe that's a sign. I don't know.
Hats off to you.
But thank you, Kevin, for letting us know that your Dan's microphone was off, and I've been sitting here staring at it. See, I can't see the sound bars because I have.
In my defense, I got here with a minute to spare.
You did. You were a little late getting here
So-
this evening, so.
I blame Jason.
But
Or
anyway,
maybe he just didn't want to hear me over
Anyway,
here.
back to the topic.
back to the topic. Dan's mic's on now. We're good. We're good.
Testing.
So, Polaris. Now, again, dependability issues aside, I honestly can't say there is much Polaris needs to do.
You can't bash them for innovation.
You can't. I mean, look at the Pro R. They just completely raised the bar
Yeah.
in the whole segment with that motor. They ride nice. They're pretty quiet. I mean, I know I bash Polaris a lot, but that's mostly just to pick on Dan.
they just make the drive line out of paper mache.
Yeah, I mean, the drive line's a
But
little
the-
weak.
The engineering's good.
Their clutches blow, their belts blow like crazy, but with the power they're pushing, they probably need to make some improvements there. And that's probably the
Yeah.
biggest thing is just improvements with
Well,
their clutches.
In all
and-
fairness, though, if Yamaha, Honda, if they were pumping out the horsepower, they would be breaking.
Probably.
Like,
they
more
probably
than
would.
likely, yes.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't put the power to their machines, because they don't want to be like Polaris and Can-Am. Oh, they break everything.
There's nothing wrong
Which-
with that because I like to be
You
able
got
to
the
hop on my
consumers that
RMAX
like
and,
that.
and not worry
So-
about breaking down in the middle of the trail.
If they made everything so competitive that everything had to be the same horsepower, the same everything, this is built this reliable, no one would have anything good to choose from, or any brands that they were like, oh, this brand's better than this brand. No, they'd be like, wow, this race car is just like this race car, and they have the same everything because the rule is the way they're allowed.
Mhm.
So, I mean, the fact that you have the dependability side of the sport market there,
Yeah, and to be
you got
fair,
that.
most guys aren't picking the Yamahas and the Hondas to go to the dunes because they don't have the power.
Right.
And so then them guys really don't. I guess when you're in the dunes, you're not going to break down as much because you're not putting them quite through the paces unless you're getting stuck in sand. You still blow belts, but
I'd
The-
assume the dunes is really hard on
The
belts.
sand is a way higher load on.
is
machine.
it? See, I've never been to the
Yeah.
dunes. You have been, so you have more
It's
experience.
a way
with that.
higher load. Yeah.
And then you have all that sand getting in.
Which makes sense because you need the higher power in
If
order
you-
to be able to spin.
If
the
you're
dunes.
gonna blow a belt or slip a belt, that's definitely the place.
He's going to do it at the dunes.
Yeah.
But-
So,
As for the clutch issues that literally everyone complains about, goes back to the fact with, oh man, this machine comes with 28s or 29s, but I'm going to put 32s on it and
Yeah.
just
yeah,
rip
everyone
the tar out of it.
everyone goes bigger tires.
People that say that they leave their Polarises mostly stock, I think generally don't, and they don't beat them. Generally, don't have a lot of problems with them.
no,
Yeah,
It's-
You're
no.
right.
Yep.
I mean,
So-
and if you have a problem that is there, they're pretty decent about covering most of that if you have your warranty still on it. Obviously, if it runs out of warranty, then you're just screwed.
Mhm.
But that's,
So, well, can we pick something specifically now for the Razor, the current Razor? What's one thing that Polaris needs to do to improve it? Dan, we're looking to you because you work at a Polaris.
So
store.
the Pro XPs are the new turbos. They quit doing the XP turbos and the Turbo S's and everything, which is the ones that everyone liked. I think they're a little bit disappointed from what I gather. One, the Pro XP is a little bit longer, which doesn't really hurt a whole lot, but it kills the turning radius. So if you're trying to show ride it, there you lose that.
Yeah.
The other thing is they lowered the seat height in it. So instead of players having that visibility over the Can-Ams, you're now pretty equivalent
Getting
to
down in
not
more.
seeing anything. But they do offer a 2-inch seat riser for it. So that is nice that they do that.
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't want to spend whatever it is. I think like $150 for a seat riser or whatever it is. So, I mean, you have that. I mean, other than that issue with the seat height, a little bit too long, I think they should still just put bigger factory tires on it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have such a big machine that's long, and you're still running, what, 29s or 30s on it?
That's something a lot of manufacturers do is they put undersized tires. I mean, Yamaha, actually, I think Yamaha hit the nail perfect with the tires on the R-Maxes. Now, you still have guys that say you need bigger tires, but the R4 comes with 29s. The two-seaters come with 30s. That's a pretty decent stock factory-sized tire. So,
I mean, the Turbo S's come with 32s. They should have carried that over into the Pro XP, I think, but I mean, it is what it is.
Next year, tractor tire.
tractor
option.
tires.
I don't understand the whole bigger tire rage. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I put a little bit bigger tires on mine for a little bit more ground clearance, but I mean, I just don't get the try. If the machine's rated for 25 inch, you try and put a 35 on. I mean, if you modified your drive line to take that, but like
on the 500,
Yeah,
yeah.
but like most people don't. Most
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
don't make the changes needed
Right.
to do that.
yeah,
So I guess I don't have a problem with it if you follow through and do the other mods you're supposed to do rather than just throwing, because that's the first thing people do is just throw tires on it. No clutch mods,
Mhm.
no weight changes, no spring changes. Just throw big tires on it, and then they wonder why it breaks.
Yeah.
Or they wonder why the belt blows out.
And I mean, if they would show some moderation, like instead of going from like a 25 to a 32, 26, 27-inch tire, it's probably going to handle okay.
I went from my machine is a 25. I got 25-inch tires. They're just actually bigger than the OEMs, so it gave me like another inch or two of ground.
They
clearance.
actually measure more true
Yeah,
to
they're actually
25.
like a
Yeah.
true 25. And
Yeah.
it's much better as far as ground clearance now.
And see, I'm actually debating when the time comes for the R-Max of going down to a 28, mainly because 28's a lot more options for a 28-inch tire.
Yeah.
29s, there's not very many
You
options.
probably
No.
you would lose what, a half inch of ground
Yeah,
clearance?
and I
That's
could go to
negligible.
30s, but then I'm getting even taller and fitting in the toy hauler and the enclosed trailer. So I may actually go down to 28s on it, but we'll see. But my thing I would say for the Razors, again, I don't have much experience with them, is get rid of the half doors, put full doors on them from the factory, because the Razors still come with them silly half doors, right?
Well, kind of. They made them more of a full door on the Pro XP, but they still have an open spot like in the front and then in the back. But the one in the back, I mean, again, when they brought that machine out, it was designed more for dune riding at that time than it was for the trail. So the way the seats and everything were designed, it was designed to suck the air through the machine, through the seats, because they have those grooves in them now.
Mhm.
And it was supposed to help for cooling whenever you're in the dunes and it's real hot out. So it was designed for a reason that way, but I agree with that. I
Yeah.
mean, most people just put the clothes offs in it anyway. Even in the dunes, most people put clothes offs in.
Yeah,
everything.
so that's what everyone does. Just put full doors in from the get-go. And as far as the Ranger, here is the thing I would say to change. Now, this is going to depend on the size of the person driving, but every Ranger I've ever felt in or ever been in, it felt like my feet hardly touched the floor. I think the seat height in those could stand to be lowered even an inch and a half,
I could probably agree with that.
because it feels like your feet's just barely touching. But again, I mean, they ride good, power's decent in those things. I don't have much experience, but my experience, that's the one thing I think Polaris needs to do is just lower that seat height just a little bit, and they'll be good.
It's been so long since I've even sat in a Ranger.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know.
And for a bench seat, the seats aren't awful. They're pretty comfy in those too. So
Yeah, they're not bad. I mean, from just sitting in them at work and moving them around and stuff here and there, but they're not terrible.
I think your power option as far as motors is spot on. The 570 is pretty potent in those for what you have. The 900's got plenty of power. They still offer the 900, or they did away with the 900 Ranger and it's just 1,000 now.
They might still have the 900 Ranger. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I haven't really paid that much attention. No, I think they did away with it. I
Maybe.
think it's just the
But
570 or whatever.
Either way, the power option, your power plant options there, you got for whatever crowd you need. Ones that using it for work don't need the power. Ones that want to use it for play, you can have the power if you want it. Polaris Ride Command is it's pretty awesome. I like it. I use it on my phone, and so when it's integrated into the machine, it does an excellent job.
They got it pretty dialed if you could get it now, because you
So,
can't get them
yeah,
right now.
Despite the dependability issues here and there, Polaris has things pretty much.
I mean, you
I
did
think
ride
right
in
there
one
was-
Razor with me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it didn't
We did
ride
break down.
terrible.
We did break down,
No. And
but we were mostly on just roads too. So
yeah, and I did figure out that had the sway bars disconnected, so that's
Oh,
why it
did
had
it?
a lot
It
of
felt like it had a
sway
lot
to
of-
it. Yeah.
yeah.
But
So.
I mean, I like the Razors. They're nice to drive. You can see out of them. I don't know about the new ones. I mean, they still make the XP 1000, which is the old body style. So if you're
Mhm.
looking for a trail machine that's still somewhat fast, still a good option over some of the other brands that's out there. But
What about Articat? Do we even want to talk about Articat anymore, or Dan? Do you think it's
So does Textron own them? Does Textron doesn't own them?
Textron
What's the deal?
still technically owns them, right, Dan? But
Okay.
they turn them
I
over
think
to a
so.
tracker.
yeah,
Off-road
they
now,
just keep going
which
because
is-
Tracker's that really cheap, like Bass Pro brand that you just
Yeah,
want to throw in the parking lot and run it over 100 times with your pickup truck because they look like an absolute piece of crap.
but they're done branding them as Textron now. They're back to branding them as Articat.
Are they still
But-
built? They're not building the trail, are they?
No,
So-
they've done away with the Wildcat Trail. They still make the Wildcat XX and the Prowler.
I haven't seen any of those come into
I-
work because usually we get a
no.
couple every year to sell them, and I mean, we got tons of the Kawasaki Mules, Articat four wheelers, and a bunch of other stuff, but I haven't seen any of the XXs and
It
the Prowlers
seems like
come in.
Articat right now is focusing on the four wheelers mainly.
Well, yeah, they're a piece of
But-
crap too, so they got to
yeah.
do something to make them better.
I
So-
think they're focusing on avoiding bankruptcy.
That's probably what it is. I think Articat's just kind of
Yeah.
limping along here,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it was going to be around much longer. But I don't have much except for my Wildcat Trail, which I loved.
It was a good machine, but that was pre-Textron, wasn't
It
it?
was that was a 19. It was Textron, but I mean it wasn't changed.
It was-
from
it
when
was
came
pre-Textron.
out.
Man,
It,
that thing
it
was
ripped.
fast.
It ripped. So
For what it was, and
the fit and finish wasn't the best in it. I'd say the biggest thing on it could be improved is the gauge display. I mean, it worked and did what it did.
The
but-
most wild fun fact about that machine, I think, was that Kimco made the motor, right?
yeah, it was a Kimco
Pretty
motor,
good. They're awesome.
and it was a
motors.
ripper.
Yeah,
that
they
was-
will-
that's one thing with Articat. They've never used their own junk. They always buy everyone else's stuff, and it's like, I'm going to buy your engine.
Yeah.
And I'm going to buy your engine. But then they have 3 different units with 3 different brand engines in them. Like, make any sense?
But as far as current machines go, I'd say Articat would probably be better off just hitting the old discontinuing everything and starting
taking
over.
it behind
Just
the
come
barn and
out,
shooting it.
just come out with some fresh units, take it back to the drawing board, start over, look what others are doing. That's pretty much their only option.
They
I don't
make
know.
some pretty potent snowmobiles. I don't know what the deal is, but I mean, a lot of people like their snowmobiles. They rip. They're better than most other brands. Like, Polaris was the same way back when they had
Mhm.
produced snowmobiles. I mean, that's what got them into the side-by-side four-wheeler market. They used their snowmobile engines.
Yeah.
You'd be stupid if you didn't. 'Cause you got some good snowmobile engines.
So, and that brings us to Suzuki. Wait, Suzuki still a thing?
Fun fact: we're like in 3 or so weeks, we should have some Suzuki products down there at work.
Like
Just
what?
four wheelers though, because they still have yet to jump in a bandwagon of making a side by side.
Yeah,
What is there? Have you ever read or heard anything about what the logic is? Why they haven't developed one? They're just not
somebody
interested.
said they were going to go under at one point, and they just didn't. They
They want to invest in the
they
money
didn't
they
wanna
didn't have.
invest in the money.
Huh.
And somebody said that they were like so far under. I don't see it because if they were so far under, they still wouldn't be producing four wheelers and stuff right now as much as they are, and they seem to be putting those out quite a bit. So
And their 750 seems to be pretty good in that four wheeler. I mean,
the King
I don't.
Quad.
Yeah,
That's a nice quad.
I don't hear
That's
much
nice.
complaints over the King Quad.
Well,
So
the last I heard, us being a dealer, since we just signed on to be a dealer for them, we instantly get like 15 units.
mhm.
So that the fact that they can do that tells me they're probably not going under.
Yeah,
You don't
So-
just give a new dealer 15 units or some crap like that and say, here you go, here's 15 units to sell. Let's go.
there's one thing I think they need to do is to get in on side by side production. So
If you were involved in marketing over there, what would be the first machine that you would bring to the market?
side by side.
Yeah,
for-
but
for them.
what specific machine? What market? What side by side market would you? go after?
know you're going with this, Greg. a nice small 50-inch trail machine that still has at least 10 inches of travel, maybe 12.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was just asking.
No, I knew you were going with
Which-
that.
No, no,
But
really.
I mean,
It wasn't a segue for anything. I was just asking, like, if you're going to jump into the side by side market after 15 years, 17 years down the road, like, what are you going to make?
Well,
for your
here's-
first, for your first machine?
If they made a smaller 50-inch
And
machine, they
do
could
they
use their
even have a-
current 750, and I think it would be fine.
and it's a good engine.
It's a good engine.
yeah, I was going to ask what motor,
So-
but
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't get it because Suzuki had one of the baddest two-stroke four-wheelers you can get, the 500.
Mhm.
Everyone said, "Oh, they're
the
comparable.
Quadzilla.
They're comparable to the Banshees, whatever else." I mean, they were faster than the Banshees. They definitely made less of them, and they got
Bite your tongue
They-
faster than the Banshees.
they got sued a lot more than Yamaha did for being too fast.
Greg had a Banshee, so I think that hit home a little bit there, Dan.
Sorry,
The Banshee was a twin. It spun up faster. It would consistently beat the
Right.
500 in a drag race. It spun up quicker because it was a two cylinder.
Anywho,
Are we gonna have to?
we're gonna move
we're gonna
on.
leave it- okay. Next podcast is going to be a debate between Dan and Greg here. Which was better, the Quadzilla or the?
I'll have to do some
Mod-
reading.
modified, hands down the Banshee.
Uh-huh.
Hands down.
You got so much more modifications that you can do to a Banshee.
That is
than you do
true.
to a Quadzilla.
Yeah, so.
You're
Now,
always
like, I know
anytime
some
you have a
people-
twin cylinder, you're always going to have advantages
Yeah.
over a single cylinder.
I know some people with a Quadzilla that's just completely maxed, and they're insane. But he has it set up for a pulling quad, not a race quad. So he's 300 some pounds, and he can sit on the front bumper of that thing, and it'll pull up in third gear going down the track. It's just absolutely insane. And he runs a 50-pound weight underneath the seat and in the front of it. So the fact that, I mean, it is what it is. But they made one of the baddest two-stroke four-wheelers. They made one of the baddest four-stroke four-wheelers. They made one of the most reliable four-wheel drive utility quads for the longest time. They made one heck of a good dual sport that everyone still buys and hasn't changed since 2008, 9, or whatever it is. It's still the same, and everyone buys them up like they're candy. They made some of the better four-wheelers and machines over time at some point in time that they've discontinued.
And
But
now,
yeah, they can't put a stupid
a-
side by side out there.
I have a 1986 Quad Sport that still runs.
but now they've just kind of one of them brands has just kind of faded into the background, and it's one you really don't even think of much anymore. At least
They-
I don't.
My
I think-
hope is they have something
But-
so great in the palm of their hand that whenever it comes out, they're just gonna wow.
Was
Everybody.
that,
I think if they were going to get into the side by side market, they would have entered by now.
I
Don't
would
ruin my
would
hopes.
think, but
I don't think they're going.
I don't- yeah, I don't know. they might be smart for doing that. Just focus on improving the machines that they do. Their King Quad.
They
but
really haven't.
Yeah.
They don't really do much to improve any of their machines
just
now.
change
Their
the
dirt
body
bikes have-
lines a little bit, but
their dirt bikes have been the same, like their race bikes and stuff. No one likes them, but there are some people that still will buy them. But a lot of people that buy their 450 race bikes and the 250s buy them for trail riding now more than they do racing.
The hand built buggies that they're riding the dunes out west. I mean, Suzuki Hayabusa motors are in a lot of those.
Yeah.
They handle a lot of boost and they're awesome motors for that. Indestructible. I used to have the Suzuki Hayabusa motor kit. I sold it to a guy in Arizona. He's building the buggy, but
I got that Suzuki motor sitting right down below us. I still got to throw in something.
yeah.
Hey, I might be able to get a frame. It's a little
somewhat.
tweaked.
Somewhat. Well, we can untweak it.
You can
I mean, the dude literally laid it on its side, and at the top bracket where the roll cage bolts to, it just pushed the
Oh, that's
bars.
a minor tweak.
over.
Even.
But it'd be basically a frame. So the only thing you'd have is here's the base, and it comes up about this high, and then you have to build the suspension and everything else off it. But I don't know if I can get it yet because the insurance company is still paying for everything to fix it. So
I always wanted a motorcycle driven buggy.
I think it would be cool.
It would be awesome, but like, there's just where would you ride it around here? It'd just be a
everywhere.
Oh, Rock Run.
Are you kidding me? Have you met us?
Yeah, we would. We'd probably take it places where we probably
No, I-
shouldn't.
that 700 double X. I do want to build. I do want to build a frame. That's going to be a
I
project.
just want to
Yeah.
drive it.
That would be cool.
The 700.
Yeah,
It's all right.
I've rode
It's
one,
like a Raptor.
but
It-
I was kind of beat.
The ride's nice. It takes a little bit of getting used to
I
a
really- yeah,
machine that passed with independent rear suspension. Takes a little bit of getting used
Oh,
to.
we got to build a buggy for that. That thing would be pretty awesome.
We might as well just build two, and we'll put my street bike motor in one. We'll put that one in the other one, and
Yeah.
we can go head to head. I got that nice big garage I'm working out of now. I thought, oh, nice room, and I can make some buggies. And then I've been so full and so busy, I haven't had room to do much of anything in there.
That's a good thing.
It is a good
Yeah.
thing. So,
What-
okay, we covered Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Polaris,
Not Can-Am.
not
Kimco.
Can-Am. That's what we're getting at. Okay.
Kimco.
Well,
Watch your tongue.
Kimco.
Hey, they actually
CF Moto.
made
CF Motos.
Kimco actually made a decent side by side at one point. You know, their motors are really good, obviously.
I mean,
but
yeah.
Well, they did
Arctic
those-
used them for
Yeah.
And they did the Rhino clones there for the longest
so.
time, which was a lot of parts were interchangeable. I don't
Yeah.
think they were too bad.
They
I
probably
think
ended up
those
buying
tended
most
to
of
have a lot of electrical issues because I don't think
Oh, really?
the wiring and stuff in them was as high quality. But all right, let's finish up here with Can-Am. Maverick Sports or Maverick Trails. Pretty decent buggies. I don't have much experience with those either, so this is all hearsay. But I don't hear a lot of complaints about those.
if I was
I
going to
don't
buy
really know.
a Can-Am, it would be the Can-Am 1000 Trail,
Hmm
that 50-inch.
The thing that worries me with the Trail is it's a long buggy for its width.
I kind of
point?
noticed that. I hate. I'm one that.
My
It's
point
gotta
is
be
that
perfect,
I would
you
be
know?
banging and getting hung up on so much stuff unless
Yeah.
I went with bigger tires. Then we get into what we were saying earlier. Then if you don't do the clutching and stuff, you're going to have
Bigger tires.
stability issues.
Well, the clutching is so easy to access on that,
Mhm.
though.
The things I love about the Wild or the Maverick Sport platform is the cabin is it's probably still my favorite interior
Yeah.
out of all the side by side. I just love the layout, the feel, the fit.
Now, if you had a Maverick Trail, would you bring, like on our long rides, like Tapfield, McCoy, would you bring spare belts on the trail with you, or do you think that would not be necessary?
I would probably want one just for peace of
So I'm saying, how
mind.
much would you trust it? You know,
For the trails like Hatfield McCoy's, I think you'd be fine with a belt.
yeah.
And if you have, but for like our deep wood rising, trailblazing, mud riding, we do. I definitely want a spare.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
their clutching seems to be.
He only says that
okay.
because he slipped the clutch in the other Can-Am that he had.
I did my Outlander first day. I had it here ride, trying to go up a hill in high gear, and
Really?
look, smoke. Yeah, it didn't hurt the belt. I mean, I still rode on that belt for a while, but
And I run it a
used to
couple
Yamaha, just like you. The only reason you have to go into low range is just if you want to.
yeah,
Like,
and that
you don't.
that was the thing with me in that Outlander too. I was used to Yamaha. I didn't even think to downshift.
Yeah.
But I was in high gear forward drive trying to go up a hill that I had stopped to ease up at first, and then I tried to go in high, and it just didn't like that very well.
So yeah, that's what I would buy. I would buy it.
I think what Canon needs to do with their Maverick Sport and the Maverick Trail is just redesign that rear end for better mud protection.
I'm not a
because that-
Visco lock. Fan.
Yeah, well, that's
Neither
that's
am
another thing.
I.
Just get rid of the Visco lock altogether and just put the diff lock in.
right.
Yeah,
If they get rid of the Visco lock, that might be the sport machine I would get. Is the Trail.
that's what I would get.
If they
I'd
if
get
they
the-
got a true front locker, like I
Mm.
would. For the price, I mean, I'd for like what are they like 16 grand ish, 17?
Yeah, but
I
don't
might
know
be
what they're up
leaning
to
that.
now,
I
but-
might be leaning that way.
I don't know if I'd go with the Trail. I like my 50-inch machines, but I think
Yeah.
if I was going with the Maverick Sport, I'd get the 60-inch.
Okay.
And again, I mean, you can get the diff lock if you get like the XMR. They're
But
the
you have
rock crawling one. It has a diff lock.
I don't
I
like.
do
think
think.
so.
I don't like the fact that you have to buy a high level trim though to
Hmm.
get a locking differential.
Yeah, I don't like that either. Just put it in all the models. Same for the Commander as well,
Yeah.
because it's basically the same platform with the dump bed. Now I love the
I
size of the Commander's dump bed.
I would really look at the Commanders too if
Yeah.
they didn't have that stupid Visco lock.
Yeah, people say the clutching in them is not as good, right? Yeah, and I don't think they're as aggressive,
I
and
don't
they seem
think-
sluggish because of it.
And they don't ride that great from what I
Yeah,
heard.
that's
I mean,
what I
we
heard
tried to
too.
put shocks on one and they ordered the Commander 1000 XMR or whatever it is, the XDP or whatever shocks to try to put on it. There's so much different between them and stuff. I mean, it's like parts ain't interchangeable. The 1800s are different. The 1000 and the 1000 DPS, whatever it is different. They're all just so different.
So we could probably say that for all of Can-Am's line, just do away with the Visco locks. Probably the number one thing
Yeah.
that Can-Am could do, and that's with their Outlanders, the Commanders, even now the Maverick X3s. Do they offer that with the Visco lock too? They do, don't they? Like their base models.
I think it's
I think
Visco
so.
lock. But I think some of those you get a locker. I think like you said, the higher models think even in the X3s you can put a diff lock in it.
Yeah.
But
thing I like about Can-Am though is they use that indestructible Rotax motor.
Mm-hmm.
They use the same Rotax motor in the trail. It's the identical motor in the trail as it is in their boosted models. Like
Mhm.
that's how durable those motors
Yeah.
are. So, I mean, if I blew a belt up every once in a while, it'd be okay. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, at least with those, they make it easy to change. I mean, it's not like the RMAX where you got to tear half the interior out.
Yeah,
to get
you
to the
have.
belt. Same with the Terex. I mean,
Yeah, that would be a deal breaker if I had to take like half the bike apart.
It's
to
like
get-
there
get
with
the-
those, there's no on the trail replacement belts. You're towing it back and doing it at home in your
Right.
garage. But Can-Am Polaris,
This you probably
makes it
just need
easy.
like one tool
yeah.
to get the. Well, you need a tool to get the nut off to get the belt off too. But yeah, I'd go Can-Am route if they got rid of the Visco lock.
Yeah.
They'll sell one more if they get rid of the.
They get rid of the Visco lock.
Don't look behind
Well,
you. Don't look behind
and-
you.
Just put a locker in their base model, so you don't have to buy the more expensive ones in order to get the diff lock. So
You have an intruder at the door there.
Seth is finally coming in and joining us. He's a late club. See, we had the mic here for him. We knew he'd be joining.
oh, so you turn that one on.
Hey, well, we didn't have yours
Oh
on for half the
my.
podcast. Seth's coming in right as we're getting close to ending. Seth, what was you doing that you were late?
It's all
to the
right. Now
party?
we can individually attack him on what he thinks about every
Oh,
unit.
but
by
wait,
himself.
wait. Seth's forgiven because he's the only other person that has on an Appalachian Mountain Rider shirt. That's why I set him here next to me. Look at this. For you guys that are watching the video and not just listening to the podcast.
I still haven't got my free T-shirt yet, so that's why I ain't wearing one.
Have you ever given me your size?
I don't know. It's a large.
Extra large.
I think I have them in the box.
large.
So we're just finishing up, Seth. We get
Fine by
close
me.
to it. We were just talking about Can-Am, and we pretty much all decided that the Visco lock just needs to go. Period. That's what Can-Am needs to do.
Yep, you
Walker.
just lost him already.
They will
So-
sell one more machine.
Yep,
if they
so
get rid of it.
Greg will buy one if
I will
they
buy
do
one.
that.
I will buy a trail if they get rid of the Visco lock.
Offer a locking differential in their base model trail.
I will buy
You
it.
got it.
I will buy it.
That
And I
would
think
be
a lot
nice
of people.
machine.
I think a lot of other people would.
They
too.
probably would. That's what's going to keep me from buying one.
I think with some just some clutch modifications and aftermarket clutch, you could eliminate most of the clutch slipping. I think.
Probably.
So,
Yeah. Well, I had that clutch kit in the Outlander, and for the most part, except for my own stupidity, it nice. It wasn't the engagement was nice and smooth. You rode that. You
Oh,
rode
yeah.
that. It wasn't herky jerky. It engaged smooth. So I mean, little clutch work.
It was good with the big tires on it, but it was way more fun with
It
the
was
small
wicked
tires.
with them smaller tires.
Like
I
with that
felt
way the
like.
clutch kit and stuff was set up, it was just insane with the small tires
Uh-huh.
on. It's like you touch the throttle and it's like boom up instantly. It's
Yeah.
like whoa, easy now, killer.
So there, we covered Can-Am, pretty much.
They're garbage. Just don't buy them.
Well, one more thing I'll say about like the Maverick X3s and stuff. Not rode them much. I have sat in them quite a bit just because I just like the set machines. You set down in them too far. Visibility is not the best, but I guess their main focus is going fast.
I heard
In a straight
John
line,
or
so.
David Rohrbaugh bought an
He
X3
did. So
base model.
his cousins, yeah. So we might get some on video
Might,
here.
yeah, might. It's the 121 horsepower one.
Is it the non-turbo or is
No,
it
it's turbo.
it's just the low?
Yeah. Daniel said it. He has been breaking it in for him because David can't resist the throttle and it's driving him nuts. So he's been driving it around for him every once in a while. He's like, it's just insane. He goes, even for, like the kind of riding they do, he said, it's just, you can't use it. He said, but that was his complaint. He goes, you sit way too low. And he said, you really can't see anything.
No,
He goes,
you
you go
can't.
over a hill and he goes, you stop because you're like, oh, am I on the trail? And then you look down and you're like, oh, I'm on the trail. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, so
But I mean,
Yeah, it was-
some people say once you get used to driving them, it's like driving a pickup truck. Once you get used to it, you can swing that thing anywhere you want to take it. I mean,
So I think there's a market for a low budget machine.
Greg, go ahead. Now that Seth's here, I'm gonna have to adjust this camera because you're like completely cut off.
That's fine.
No,
Leave it.
no,
Leave it.
People want to see you. I don't think so.
Testing. 1, 2. Testing.
Can you see Seth better now? Hello.
right, hold
Just
on.
the front of his
Hold
face.
on.
There we go. That's
fine.
better. A little bit more.
Go back
A little bit more.
Back the other way.
A little more. A little more. A little more.
Whoa,
There we
right
go.
there.
Right there. Right
too
there.
far, too far. Oh,
That's perfect.
right there. Don't move it. Don't touch it.
Okay.
There's Seth. Seth mostly came because we're going for a night ride when we're done with the podcast, and he
Yep.
wanted. Did you bring your?
No, I didn't have time.
Night ride, and it has nothing to do
Aw.
with David Hasselhoff. You don't even get that. Man, you guys are too young.
I got it. I get it.
I got it.
I grew up watching Knight Rider. Should I admit
Okay.
that on live stream or
Yeah.
not?
Come on. Knight Rider was awesome. Yeah.
Whoops.
Knight Rider was
So
Easy on my table.
I don't know where to go from here.
Budget Machine.
Budget Machine. That's what you were talking about. Yep.
I think I've talked about this before, but I think there's a true need in the market for a true budget, like just absolute bare bones machine for $10,000 to $12,000 that you can just go out and beat the heck out of.
Mm-hmm.
Throw that 686 motor in there from Yamaha. I mean, and make a nice lightweight single seat frame, and you would sell a lot.
Like the
Bring
old
it-
Honda Odyssey.
Bring
back the
modern Honda.
Honda
Odyssey or Pilot?
like a little bit bigger
Yeah.
machine, 55 inches,
So I don't
55 inches
I
wide.
think they make the
paddle
RS1
shift.
anymore.
How many people would like to see something like that? Like the,
I would like
the
to see
rebirth
that.
of the Odyssey and the Pilot.
I think it'd be cool.
I would buy one.
You would
We're-
buy
we're-
a lot of stuff.
Should we make one?
I mean, what are we going to use for the drivetrain?
I don't know.
The 700 XX.
And nah, make it an old two-stroke engine. Not an old two-stroke, a two-stroke engine. Like keep it original. Triple cylinder snowmobile engine.
But the thing is, though, like we got to use modern suspension geometry, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like the suspension geometry off those older machines is not the greatest.
No.
They're cool, but there's much better suspension geometry now that you can take advantage of.
I'm sure we can get Joe to fab us up some swing arms.
Oh, I got a welder stuff now, man.
Yeah, but I mean, Joe.
I'm getting pretty good at welding.
I'm sure, but like Joe, like
I know.
it'd be good promotion, Joe. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
So, what you're saying, Greg, is like looking towards the future. The direction an OEM needs to take is to make a nice, budget-friendly,
The trend is more and more and more and more expensive.
bigger,
more-
wider,
More
power.
bells and whistles. Let's go the other direction. And I should be on the Yamaha marketing team. I'd say
Mhm.
let's go the other direction. Blow that market up. It brings a whole lot more people into the sport that could afford it.
Mhm.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
It does.
But
With all
This
the
horsepower
electronics
race. I
and
mean, how
stuff.
much more horsepower can you add to these things?
Yeah.
I mean,
200.
200 horsepower.
Crazy.
Who
Yeah.
can use 200 horsepower on a trail in Pennsylvania? Who can do that?
Let's put this. You
Exactly.
do it safely. Then I don't know.
can't-
You're
somebody's
trying-
lying.
You can't use 200 horsepower in Pennsylvania to its maximum potential. You can't.
You can do a
There's
lot.
no way.
You'd be surprised.
Now,
There's
I won't argue
no
you can do
way.
a lot, but to use it like he's saying, his full potential constantly and not just a little 2-second burst here and there when it opens up.
I mean,
I would give you a stock Banshee. You would never be able to ride it to its potential ever.
I
Never.
would not put that past me. I would not. I've maxed everything out I've ever owned. I've maxed every piece of potential out of every unit I've ever owned.
Yeah.
My 400EX wasn't fast enough.
In a straight line. Anybody can go.
Yeah.
Seth,
In a
Anybody
straight line,
can
that's-
go in a straight
Seth, I think he
Nothing
needs to
against
go
all
for
you-
a ride with
nothing
us on
against-
the four-wheelers.
Nothing against all the elite drag racers out there. That's a science in its own.
Don't
But like-
straight's boring, folks.
John Force. Sorry, man. No, but I mean, come on. Anybody can jump in a side by side and just nail the throttle and go in a straight line. Like,
Yeah, but
it takes no skill to do.
who
that.
can
Let's
punch the throttle and not hit the tree in front of them? That's the question. This guy.
That's why you don't have anything with 200 horsepower.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
In my
we'll
truck.
take wagers here
Well,
when
that
he,
went off course real
yeah,
fast.
when,
We're
when,
talking about budget
when Dan finally gets
I blame
his
Seth.
big horsepower machine, we'll all take wagers on how long it
Yeah.
is before
He
he
wants to
starts
donate.
A single seat version from Yamaha. Put the new motor in the 10 to 1 ratio, the 10 to 1 compression ratio. Make the buggy about 650 pounds. High-low transmission, front differential lock. Like, you're not going to ride that to its full potential, really. Like, you can always put a stroker motor in it,
Mhm.
but you're never going to ride that to its full potential. Like, it's going to be fast.
And if you think about it, pretty much any of the OEMs could do that. I mean, Honda, if they would put the 700 motor with like a 5-speed transmission, like we were talking about, in
Or
a
the-
single seat.
Or the Yamaha's 850 in a single seat.
Yep.
I mean,
Can-Am with their 570. I mean, Polaris has done it with their Ace and their RS1.
Polaris was on the right track. Let's just throw the Ace out the door. That thing was
Yeah, that
a
was
garbage machine
yeah.
that absolutely no. Who wants to sit on a four-wheeler with a roll cage around?
They were going in the right track, but the RS1 was just
It got so
Too-
expensive so
right.
fast.
Yes.
Exactly.
It-
What I'm talking about is something 11,999.
But there
you know,
was-
like a single seater 10,999. They have all the tooling for it. They just need to build a frame for it.
Yeah,
That's
but
it.
there was no reason for that RS1 to be as expensive as it was
No,
either.
and that is probably
you were
the
paying
one
literally-
Polaris I would buy.
you were
is an
paying
RS1,
$1,500 to $2,000 less for the RS1 than you were the two-seater version.
which
I mean,
get
it's
the
like-
two-seater. Yeah, no brainer.
it's- So I mean, they had the great mentality, but the wrong marketing idea is
That's why the price
Yeah.
point is 10 to 12,000.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
where
bring
you
it
need
back
to
and make it less.
Yeah. Let's
throw that 686 motor in there as an upgrade. If you want to pay 15 grand for it, then you can get the twin cylinder 850.
If one of y'all make one and want us to demo it, gladly
do
that.
some R&D for you as you're developing it. I mean, we like to go.
Okay.
But and
It's-
they do away with all the electronics.
But
And I know a lot of consumers love their touch screens. They love all the electronic gizmos, but it's
At-
really
I mean,
not needed
At
for the
some
average
point, I
rider.
have to be right though, because at some point you can't have an $80,000 side by side.
Mm-mm.
Nobody's going to buy that.
And that's the
so
direction.
at some
it
point,
seems
you're
to be
going to have to have it swinging back the other way
Yeah.
to keep the market interested.
So it'd be nice to go out on the trail, and beat the crap out of it, and not worry a bit about it.
Yeah,
Right.
it's simple. It's got enough power for what you need to do with it, and it's
I mean,
dependable, easy to fix. If you
think
need to
about
break it.
that.
Easy to fix on the
Think
trail.
about that.
Parts are cheap.
Think about that stroker motor we had in the 09. Picture that. That's a 1,200 pound buggy.
Mhm.
Picture that
And
as a 700 pound buggy.
Yeah,
That would
it rip.
scream. That
Mhm.
would scream.
Well, I mean, it's same thing with the
65 miles
Arctic
an hour.
engine. Arctic engine was a
But yeah,
screamer
that- the
just in that
700
two-seater.
Yeah,
I mean, you could have used that same chassis too off that Wildcat trail. Just make the subframe a little bit skinnier, keep the suspension the way it was, but maybe
Completely redesign all the bushings.
yeah, okay, the bushings
yeah,
were
bushings
garbage,
in
yeah.
Arctic. Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
bad.
but I mean, like their framing and stuff, you could have used that for the single seater, move everything to the center, shorten the center of the machine up a little bit, keep the width for the suspension.
So what
part
you're
of
saying
the
is build a
geometry.
new frame.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much just build a whole new.
Okay,
frame.
Yes,
That's what
but-
you're saying.
Yeah.
Like you can leave the suspension the way it was, basically, is what I'm saying. Just
Start
in
from
the
scratch.
center, you know,
Mhm.
Start
sink
from
it in a
scratch,
little
just build
bit
a-
to make it the single.
Build
Yeah.
a purpose built frame for it.
Yeah, take out
Good.
like say your A arms are mounted on each side, and just shrink that up so you can make
Yeah.
longer A arms.
Yeah, you
in a
basically just
shorter
cut the
space.
Wildcat in half,
Yeah.
you shrink it up, and you put it back together, and then you have the perfect
That would be a screamer.
What's
Put
that?
the-
The wild.
Yeah.
Wildcat
Wildcat
motor?
trail because they're only
Yeah.
what
a
800
single
pounds.
seat?
Well, if you shortened it up, yeah, they're under 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, so you shorten it up and you make
Yeah,
it
they're-
skinnier.
If you
you're
made
gonna
it
drop.
skinnier, then you could go with the Wildcat Sport
definitely.
suspension
I
and
don't
still be like 50 inches.
I don't
Yeah.
think you'd have a problem building those like a tank and weighing around 700 pounds. I
No.
don't think you'd have any problem.
Yeah, if you keep it simple,
Mhm.
it'd be easy
Yeah.
doable, especially for a single seater.
I think we should get a frame and do that. Make our own.
We'll
Like,
just-
you know,
Well, Greg and I have been talking about it for a while with your
Yeah.
700 double X there.
just get some
Paddles.
good differentials
Just
out of a
stick
Polaris.
shift, just sequential, just like the.
And I
the,
think that's what
YZ.
I'm gonna do when I get the kids go kart done and get room out there in the garage is make my own frame for that motor I have down there. Just simple. I just use square tube for now, and
I've seen some guys use the 800S or the 800s, the older ones. They took the transmissions out of those and they made a sprocket hub adapter for where the clutches and stuff go. And the guy put a 600 Gixxer engine in the 800 and used one of their transmissions, and it held up. He said the only thing he ever had issues with was stretching the chains and breaking them from all the mud and stuff. And
They also.
so,
Go ahead.
I mean, you put one of those in on his engine. You put some Polaris stiffs because I think we can all agree that they had a better locker system in their differentials than what most do. But you put those in there, and then whatever axles and whatever else,
But
and
somebody build a budget machine. That's what I want to see.
Mhm.
I don't want Polaris's budget machine.
their budget machines like, let's take all your money,
yeah.
just give me.
Uh-huh.
But
So,
they had
have
the
you
right
guys
idea.
have you guys seen the new Segway side by sides?
I've heard of it, and I've seen some people do reviews on it, but I haven't heard anything in a while about them.
They got me interested because they have the Villain and the Fugleman, which is their utility one. But again, I think they look to be pretty good machines, but again, they're getting too much. They have the base, which I'm not sure what the pricing is on those. But then the other trims, they got the big fancy touch screen. It takes up the
Oh,
whole
that's gas, right?
dash. And
That's gas, right?
they are going to come out with hybrid versions of them.
hybrid, how will it work? Like
be
a
gas electric.
Toyota Prius kind of hybrid?
Yeah, that's what I'm
or-
guessing. It'll be a combination of a gas electric motor,
Hmm.
which might be a
I'm,
pretty
I'm
good
kind of down
combination.
for a hybrid.
Yeah.
I'd rather take a hybrid over all electric.
I would
but-
too. Oh, definitely.
So I
100%.
mean,
Definitely, because you'd have that instant torque
Well,
of electric, and then the gas can take over.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's where we're going. We're going to have to go to hybrid first before we go electric.
but
well,
anyway.
that's not what they're trying to do, though.
No, that's
No.
not. It's not. What they're trying to do isn't going to work.
No.
Period.
That's a whole other podcast we already
Yeah, let's-
have. You guys can listen to at some
Yeah.
point. So, any other things we think that OEMs could on any model? I think we covered most. And again, this was kind of a little bit all over the place, but
Oh,
They always are.
Kawasaki. Since I have a brute force,
Mhm.
they need to come out with a 1000 model full for sure.
Yeah,
They're,
we-
behind, they're behind the game for a
no,
long
Did
time.
you bring it?
He didn't
You
bring it. He doesn't like it enough to actually want to ride it. So
That's not true.
it's not here, is it?
No, because I didn't have time to let it out. I
Excuses.
would've been,
Excuses.
half hour
He
late.
just wanted to ride on the RMAX. Come on.
I enjoy that.
same
But no, I think they need to come out finally with the bigger,
thing.
bigger bore machine in the full or the quad range.
thing we said about Yamaha. Why haven't they dropped the 850 or 1000? And we don't know.
Way behind.
Kawasaki has the KRX 1000.
It can't be liability worries now.
No, and it
Like,
probably comes down to more like you said, just the
It
size
really
of the
physically
motor
can't
itself
make it work in
Going to
there.
make it
It's just
hard.
too
to do.
big.
Yeah.
just not only the motor, but the the clutching and everything is also a lot bigger, and you just don't have the space for it.
Let's put the YXZ 1000 motor in a Raptor frame.
Yeah,
Oh man.
I mean, why not?
Hey, did you know the Raptor 700 engine and the Grizzly 700 engine are the same
Same
engine?
engine.
Fun fact. Found that out a couple weeks ago.
Wow, Dan, it's like
That's like old news.
yeah.
See, actually, I knew that.
I
surprisingly.
don't like Yamaha that much. I'm sorry. To
Wait
pay
a
attention
second.
to
He
it.
doesn't
He
like
does-
reliability. He doesn't like.
No, he
that.
doesn't. That's why you buy Polaris.
The only reason you don't like Yamaha is because it doesn't go fast like all these other ones.
I like Suzuki. I like the 750 King Quads. Those are my all-time favorite four-wheeler.
The King Quads are actually pretty quick though. They're pretty quick. The
Mhm.
King Quads are.
I know. Riding Jen's Grizzly and then Dan driving the 750 King Quad. He was full tilt, and then everyone else is like, "Wow, he's driving really fast." And he's up there just cruising. He's like, "Oh, he's barely getting on it."
Also, does anybody want to buy a 2021 Yamaha Kodiak?
I don't
It
think
has 46 miles on it. I just want rid of it.
And I'm
Can
not
you
selling
explain
Mighty
the
Mouse. See, I'm not selling Mighty Mouse anymore, so I'm not tempted to buy it. So now Greg is going to advertise it.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
If it hasn't been ridden enough.
Hasn't been
You're not
Yeah, why
even
didn't you
through
bring it?
pre-kin yet.
I wonder why, Dan.
Because he's wanting to sell it.
I
So
do
he
wanna
that's
doesn't
sell
no
it.
lose the
that's
mileage.
no
I want to
excuse.
sell it, and I don't want to beat it and run the miles up on it.
You can still sell for the same price. It doesn't matter.
And it's
That
just
kind of
hard.
crossed my mind too, a little bit with mine.
I
'Cause I'm
figured.
thinking to sell it. But I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I've been riding it for hunting and stuff, and it's growing on me. So
Mhm.
we'll see.
Yeah, if I start riding that Kodiak, I'm into the side by sides. Like
I'm into
Oh.
I'm into dirt.
Once you
bikes,
bought the
so-
side by side, it was hard to go back to the four-wheeler, wasn't it?
oh yeah,
Mhm.
and like the crazy thing is, 10 years ago, I was really into ATVs, and I saw a side by side, and literally, I was thinking,
That's
I,
stupid.
I saw a Rhino. I saw like a 2011 or 2012 Rhino sitting in the showroom, and I was literally like, who would want that?
Yeah.
You know, but now it's
The
like,
40-year-old me, 35-year-old me. I don't know how old he is, but I'm going to quit guessing.
But anyway, again, most of that was just our thoughts on what OEMs need to do.
but our
mostly
thoughts are
from-
correct.
Well, our thoughts are based on what we've heard others talking about.
They're
so.
scientific.
Seth, I'm glad you were able to get in here, at least enjoy us for a few minutes.
Yeah.
We knew you were going to be late.
I don't say
You
much
warned us.
anyways.
Yeah, you're the quiet observer.
Joining us next week is the Yamaha CEO. Wouldn't that be
Yeah,
awesome?
That'd be pretty cool. Huh? We should get
He-
some. We should get some guests on the podcast here. and
That'd be
there.
nice.
Dan would make him mad, and he'd leave.
Yeah.
He'd be like,
He
"Oh,
would.
Polaris,
He
I hate Yamaha."
If you can't support the brand you sell, it ain't my fault.
But guys, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Again, we got night riding to do tonight. That's why we were a little earlier on this podcast. So thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening. Make sure you guys continue to comment on the replay on this and what you think OEMs need to do to improve their current model lines. I think we covered pretty much. I mean, we were a little all over the place. This was another one of those unscripted,
I'm
prepared
not gonna lie,
for,
I
but-
think most of them are just all over the place.
Yeah, they
But
pretty
that's
much
what
are.
makes them-
Yeah.
It's usually what we end up.
That's what
doing.
makes it our
Uh-huh.
podcast.
It
'Cause we're
is.
just all over
We
the
always
place.
get back
people.
on topic.
We get back
eventually,
on-
though. Like you can't go too far off the reservation.
We're usually more
but-
fun when we're unscripted and just come with no
Yeah.
plan and just talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever. It flows.
I mean,
out
the
of our
mic being off was
mouths.
part of the script. That was.
Oh yeah, we totally had that
we
written over there on
planned
the whiteboard, so we knew to do that. But anyway, guys, we're gonna sign off for tonight. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we'll hear you guys on the next one. Be more consistent again every month. We're gonna stick with it.
What's next time's topic?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that yet. So if you guys have an idea for a topic for next month, let us know.
Budget machine.
Budget machine.
Come on, somebody build it.
well, we could do that. Like design the next budget machine on the next podcast. Like what motor are we going to use? How are we going to do the
That'd be-
frame?
I know what. Yeah, I know what I would use.
We'll have to be very descriptive in our explanation of it, though, because most people won't watch the video portion of it. They'll be listening to the podcast.
Expecting engineering
Next year's new
drawings.
side by side brand is the Appalachian Crew, and it'll be in production coming here in the next month or so.
All 2024 be for sale. Right. We only need a year.
So, if
35
you want to help
horsepower.
design that, you get 1% of every one sold.
The most
Anyway.
important thing, what are we going to call it?
Oh. Mighty Mouse 2.0. I'm sorry, that don't make sense.
The AMR Destroyer. Oh,
No.
no.
That's gonna
Too-
take
too aggressive.
That's gonna take
The Almighty.
The almighty what?
I don't know. Like someone else finish
I
that.
Well, it
don't
depends on the brand. Like, who are we building it for? Are we building for Honda or Yamaha? Or
This,
That's our
this is
own.
this is our
Oh,
own.
this is the
That's what Dan's
AMR.
saying. This is
Yeah,
our
this is
own,
gonna be our own,
designed, engineered, side by
completely
side.
custom. You tell us what you
and
want.
we're
We build it.
using. We can use any
The-
engine, any like any
We can
engine
build-
from any manufacturer.
We
Yes.
build one model
what we
for
can do.
and they'll
every.
send us a crate motor.
Yes,
Right? Okay.
that's what we're gonna
Yeah,
do.
yeah. We build one model for every brand engine that we like the most.
There we go.
So
Yeah, that's pretty
The AMR Countryman,
cool. Countryman. Yeah, I like that.
just the average Joe's budget side by side.
and then once they start selling, we'll
Or
build
single-seater.
different models off of that specific engine platform.
So.
There we go.
All
Figured
right.
it out.
With Visco lock.
Now, 30 years from now, when this
Let's go.
comes true, we're gonna say we told you so.
Oop, told you so. It was coming. You guys just didn't know it. All right. I think we're done
All right,
for
we're
the
done.
night. So
Good
thanks
night.
for watching, everyone. We'll see you or we'll talk to you on the next one.
That's wrong.
Keep on
And-
riding.
No, I do that in post.